your third time here, but there's still probably plenty of things in here that you have never ever noticed before, like this absolutely massive fireplace beside me. Did you even know there was a fireplace? Yes, no, not too sure, can't really remember. You got the Hogwarts school crest on there, you got all the house crests on there as well, and you have a Hogwarts school crest right inside the hearth there. You probably actually come a bit closer and even see it from here, and there was always a roaring fire going, so you probably never even noticed that one. Now cast your eyes to the top of the Great Hall, there is a house point counter behind Hagrid. Now that was for the very first film, and as you can see, that is filled up with thousands of tiny little bees. And when they had to try and actually produce that in the very first film, it actually caused a nationwide bee shortage, believe it or not. So there's two things that you may have never noticed before, but there is something in here that's rather large that is actually missing, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is above your heads. Have a look up in the air. There is no ceiling in here. I'm afraid we couldn't get the moon and the stars in for you today, but then again, we didn't for the films either. We got our CGI wizards to make it look enchanting and magical. And what a job they did. Although there is missing, there is something very real beneath your feet, so have a good old stamp on that floor for me, please. What you are stamping on is real Yorkshire flagstone. Now the set designers knew that this set would take an absolute battering by all the new scenes that took place in it, and as you can see, it is in almost perfect condition. Now talking about big scenes, remember in the very first film where Professor Quirrell ran through those doors shouting, "There's a troll in the dungeon," or about in the very last film when Professor McGonagall stakes down the jewel and he made that dramatic exit out the back there as well. Now I know you are massive Harry Potter fans, so you much all have your favourite houses, so give it a cheer if it is your favourite. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do we have any Hufflepuffs in here today? No. Okay, I thought as much. I'm not going to lie. Okay, let me rephrase this question just a little bit. Ladies, and perhaps you gentlemen, whatever tickles your fancy, we've got any Robert Pattinson fans in here today? Yeah, it's always a couple more shouts, a few more smiles. Well, that's his costume just there. He played Cedric Diggory in the Goblet of Fire. If there's any Ravenclaws around, we've got the Ravenclaw house over there, to the furthest to the left, there we have the dress of the Grey Lady. In the middle we have Cho Chang's Witch's robes, and we have an emerging Moaning Myrtle dress robe just there, and she was a ghost of the girls' bathroom. Now we do have the best house, and that is Slytherin, and that is just behind you. We have the dress robes of Draco Malfoy just there, and he's played by the wonderful Tom Felton. But I'm not pretty sure, give it a cheer. Do we have any Gryffindors in here today? Yes! I thought as much. You must all be able to tell me whose quite fashionable cardigan this is. Yes, Neville Longbottoms, Warden their Deathly Hallows, Part 2. What about this guy's with your rose? We'll show the patches of fame badge and they're far too short. Who could that be? Yes, Ron Weasley, that ginger one, Warden in the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. Also, we have this one just here. We have something very special here. These are Harry Potter's very first ever Wizarding Robes. He was played by Daniel Radcliffe. He was only 11 when he first wore these. He was absolutely tiny. To be honest, can't say much has changed. It's still pretty small. But on the very first day, he walked through those doors at the back there. He walked all the way up the Great Hall. So if you'd like to accompany me right up here, he did in fact put on that sorting hat. Now, as if by magic, we have arrived at the teacher's table. So you must all be able to tell me who's this rather large guy beside me. Yes, Rubius Hagrid. Now, he's played by a gentleman called Robbie Coltrane. If you do know Robbie Coltrane from previous films, he's actually only about 6 foot. Now, I'm about 6 foot. Yes, there is a little bit of a height difference, isn't there? So, how do you think he become so tall? Any ideas? Shout out. Stilts. Do you know what? He actually did have stilted shoes, but this is where it gets a little bit clever. He actually had a body double called Martin Bayfield. Gents, you might recognise the name. He's an ex-England rugby player. Now, he was not 6 foot. He was not 6'5". He was 6'10". The guy was an absolute monster. Plus the stilted shoes puts him over 7 foot. Then to top it off, literally, they gave him an animatronic face mask on Robbie Coltrane's head, so you never even know the difference. Anyway, it smiled, it grinned, and it even fed Buckbeak, and you didn't even know about it, believe it or not. So that's your first secret of the day. You'll find out a little bit more about that a bit later on in the Creatures Workshop. I'm afraid that does conclude your time. We won't all give it but don't worry, it gets so much better than this. But before you move anywhere, there's a few things that I have to tell you. If you've got an audio guide that starts with the number 1 just outside this right-hand archway there and goes up sequentially from there, if you have a Harry Potter passport, turn to the Quidditch page and you'll find a list of 15 golden snitches. Now my challenge for you today is to naturally find all 15. So if you make your way out the left-hand archway there, the top of your head will be a small golden snitch. just like the ones in the films. In the Battle of Lake Putterby, it's only one of 2 places in the world you can try, so why not buy it? Your toy is now self-guided, so if you'd like to make your way out California, that would be absolutely fantastic.